On Capitol Hill with more. Megan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mark. And we are expecting that vote. At this point, it looks like about an hour. Joining me now to discuss all of this, Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers. She's the vice chair of the Republican Congress, the highest ranking Republican woman in Congress. Thank you so much, Congresswoman, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Now, we know this is the second vote that we've had on full repeal. This is something like the 33rd vote that we've had on some kind of repeal of parts of these laws, parts of this law.
Right.
Now, the votes just aren't there in the Senate. So do you expect anything different to happen with this?
This is an important vote because it is about the policy, and it's about this policy that is going to have a damaging impact on people and their health care. And the control of health care and health care decisions belongs in the hands of the individuals, their families, and their doctors. And unfortunately, Obamacare is the wrong approach. It's a big government takeover that threatens our abilities as individuals and families to make those best decisions, and it's very important we take this stand. The court ruled it was constitutional, but that doesn't mean that it's a good law.
But just straight talk, this is about taking a stand. This isn't necessarily, you don't expect the law to be repealed.
Well, ultimately, the voters are going to have that final say in November. A week ago Thursday, the Supreme Court ruled after 2 years that the law is constitutional, that the law is a tax, a very large tax on the American people. But just because the Supreme Court ruled that it's constitutional does not mean that it's a good law. And we believe, the Republicans believe very strongly, that this is a bad policy. It needs to be taken off the books, and we need to repeal and replace it with something better.
And then the criticism that I've heard all day long on the floor from Democrats is, where's the replace part?
Right. Well, we have those replace bills. The first step, though, is to repeal Obamacare, and then we can start with those next steps. And they're steps that will address what's driving the cost of health care. The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, did nothing to address the cost. We'll address those important choices, access. There's a number of bills.
I want to move on to the Bush tax cuts. We're seeing, and I think we're seeing the same divide that we've seen all along over this $250,000 mark. Why not just vote on people making under $250,000 a year? That seems to be the one thing everybody agrees on.
Right. Well, that is, it is. No one wants to raise taxes on those making less than $250,000. It's interesting to note that 75% of the cost of Obamacare, the health care bill, will be on the backs of those making $120,000 and less. But putting that aside, we need tax reform in America. We need tax reform for everyone, for individuals, for the corporations. We need a simpler, flatter tax code. We need comprehensive tax reform. The Republicans believe it's very important that we keep the current tax rates. They're set to expire December 31st. We need some more time to work, Republicans and Democrats, on that tax reform.
But why not decouple? Why not have that vote on people making under $250,000? Because everybody seems to agree on that.
Well, there's a lot of aspects to tax reform, and if we start picking it apart, it jeopardizes the effort to do the comprehensive simplifying of the entire tax code that needs to happen. We need tax reform for individuals, for corporations, so that it's simpler, it's fair, and that it is more competitive for us moving forward.
Last question, big picture, this fiscal cliff. IMF chief Christine Lagarde in town last week saying that that's a real concern for the global economy, this fiscal cliff.
Yes.
How confident are you that we're going to avoid that with the atmosphere that we're seeing in Congress right now?
Well, we need to be honest about the situation. And unfortunately, we haven't seen the honesty coming out of the European Union and many of those countries that have been borrowing and spending way beyond. And America is not that far behind the European Union countries. When you look at the amount of debt that we have accumulated, record deficits every year, over $1 trillion in new debt every year since President Obama has been in office, we need to be honest about our situation, and then we need to start taking the appropriate steps to start living within our means, setting the priorities, getting to a balanced budget. It's important to America's economic future, and it's important to national security when you consider we're borrowing 40 cents right now on every dollar that we spend.
Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers, thank you so much for being here with us, fresh off the House floor. Again, we are expecting that vote in about an hour, Mark, and of course we'll be watching it very closely.
All right, Megan Hughes, Congresswoman, thank you both so much. Coming up at 5 p.m. New York time on Taking Stock with Pim 5.